we are back in post-game form. It is Sunday, December 1st, and December football came with, oh boy, a little bit of a clunker for the Ravens, who dropped to 8-5 after a 24-19 loss, Sarah, to the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles 8 in a row, 9-2 they were coming in, so that makes them 10-2, makes the Ravens 8-5 and a game and a half out of first place. Entering the bye, the Steelers beat Cincy. That's where things are right now. Tonight's live stream is brought to you by our friends at GEHA, Government Employees Health Association. I'm Bobby Trossett, as always, joined alongside Sarah Ellison. We're glad you're here. Like the video on the way in. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, and hit that notification bell so you can be notified of when we're dropping our daily live content. Sarah, you leave 7 points off the board. At least Justin Tucker did. You go 6 for 15 on third down. You go at 1.8 offensive drives without cashing in. Tough. That's going to be tough against any team, much less one of the top-ranked teams in the entire league and the top-ranked defense led by Vic Fangio.
Yeah, I feel like tonight we saw the same old Ravens that we've seen all year, but you had a team on the other side that is among the NFL's elite, and so the Ravens couldn't get away with shooting themselves in the foot time and time again. So, and that's just the story of their season, and they can overcome it against bad teams, can't overcome it against good teams. From Justin Tucker missing like you said, 7 points, which would have swung the ball game into his favor. Finally, the Ravens get their offensive penalties under control, but then Lamar Jackson was missing throws. There were miscommunications, fumbles all over the place. Luckily, they recovered them. Wide receivers dropping passes. Saquon and Derek look like the same, they're both doing what they're supposed to do, but the difference came in the fourth quarter. Lamar just not looking like the MVP that we've seen so far this season. Defense finally showing up again until the fourth quarter when Saquon kind of took over, and it just is like they can't get out of their own way. They cannot get out of their own way, these Ravens, in the 2024 season.
And as a result, the playoff picture entering Sunday Night Football, which is taking place from a wintry mix, Western New York. It's going to be between Buffalo and San Francisco, so we'll see how the Bills handle business tonight. They are currently, at the time of this live stream, 9-2, but from a Ravens perspective, still squarely involved in the playoff conversation, Sarah, but 8-5, game and a half out of first place, as I mentioned off the top, and Pittsburgh continues to set the pace in the division. The Steelers are 9-3. It's a guaranteed winning season yet again, I should say, for Mike Tomlin. They take care of Cincinnati and pretty much take away any hope that was remaining going into Week 13 for the Bengals' playoff chances. Steelers 9-3. Round 2, Ravens-Pittsburgh, of course, will take place December 21st in a few weeks from right now. But, Sarah, can you think of a time where a bye week was more important? Between now and December 15th, what is this team going to have to do to make some key adjustments and fix things for a second half stretch? Because this is a team that at this point just doesn't look poised to make a Super Bowl run 5 weeks from now.
Yeah, what do they do over the next week? They just, it's the same thing we've been talking about. We're a broken record at this point. Get out of your own way. Now, there is, Bobby, a Justin Tucker problem. There is a major Justin Tucker problem. Started out, hit a field goal to kind of start off the game. It's like, okay, looks like Justin seems to be back. And then the very next drive, when the Ravens go down and score 7, he doinks it again off the left goalpost. Then when he comes back and hits a 50-yarder, and it's like, okay, Tucker's back. But then he misses another one wide left from 47, and then perhaps overcorrects and misses wide right from 53. Bobby, he has had 10 missed kicks this season. That is the most right now in the entire NFL. It's a career high for him. It's 7 points that surely in a game like this, a low-scoring game against two teams that are offensive juggernauts when you compare them to the rest of the league. John Harbaugh tried to give him love. Went over there, gave him a hug after he missed his second straight field goal. trying to give him a word of encouragement because that's all you can do in the middle of the game. I know you want to see some changes outside of that. And he made it clear after the game, Bobby. He was asked a couple times about Justin. Nobody came outright of the reporters. Nobody came outright saying, hey, will you replace him? But he understood where they were going. He said, quote, if you're asking me if we're moving on from Justin Tucker, I'm not really planning on doing that right now. I don't think that would be wise, but he'll be the first to tell you he needs to make kicks. I think if you look at his history, you have to say he's capable of doing that. So what's your reaction to first Justin Tucker's misses? And then what's your reaction to John Harbaugh's quote and his hug and the way he's handling the situation?
I'd love to give you both after we hear from Justin himself in his reaction as he just gave to the media just a short while ago.
I can put it, I missed the kicks, and I'll leave it at that. I just left the points out there. I feel like I cost us this one, but it doesn't really do anybody any good to dwell on it. The only thing that we can do, that I can do, is just continue to work, move forward, take one kick at a time. I hate that I've had to have this same conversation over the course of this season, but that's something that comes with the territory in this job description. The kicks are either good or they're not, and today I did not do a good enough job to help our team win the football game.
Justin, you've obviously never gone through a stretch like this to this point in your career. I mean, how are you dealing with this right now? How are you mentally dealing with what's happening right now?
Yeah, I mean, obviously right now, just immediately after the game, it's pretty raw emotionally for me. I mean, anytime we win, we come in the locker room and we all feel great, and then anytime we lose, especially for me, given my performance today, it was just not up to our standard. It's crushing. But at the end of the day, my feelings don't really matter. What matters is getting back to work and doing everything that I can to help this football team win games down the stretch.
That courtesy of @AllBannerSports on X. And Sarah, I guess to answer your question, how do I feel about the way John Harbaugh is handling it from a coaching perspective? Yeah, admirable, but at the same time, I think moving forward, he has to take into account from a decision-making standpoint, Justin's struggles, because that not only does he have to take that into account, Todd Monken has to take that into account on third down. Lamar has to take that into account in terms of what he does. He took a bad sack tonight, which backed Justin up, which led to a miss. Who knows if he would have missed if it wasn't for that? I think it was like a 14-yard loss or something in the early double-digit category. So there's that side of it. We've talked in recent weeks, team management-wise, what this would mean if they were to cut him. There'd be a big dead cap hit coming up next year. I think over $7 million, Brian McFarland noted post-game, who's the Ravens salary cap analyst. And what place kickers are out there right now? Kansas City just found one that won them a game last week since Harrison Butker went on IR. But who's to say that any place kicker that's out there on the street right now? I know Jordan Stout did some kicking during his days at Penn State. By the way, we should talk about him in just a bit, because from a field positioning standpoint and punting, I thought he struggled tonight. But those are my reactions. This is tough sledding right now for a Ravens team for over a decade. Didn't even have to blink when it comes to number 9. Now the Justin Tucker experience is alive and well, and that's a scary thought going into the postseason.
Yeah, so I guess a couple things. You brought up the word cut. You're not cutting Justin Tucker. But there's an option of, assigning a kicker to the practice squad. You know what I mean? Just to have somebody there, somebody who can make extra points consistently and maybe can consistently hit from, 45 and in, something like that. But obviously you don't cut them and, outright. And I agree with you in that you need to be making decisions on fourth down differently. If you're 4th and 2, 4th and 1, 4th and 3, Do you say to yourself, we lost 7 points last time? Do we go ahead and go for it? If you're, at the 35 and it's 4th and 2, those are the type of decisions that you are now making, which is not a good place to be. Justin Tucker there in the locker room, I mean, he's saying everything that's right. He said the game was on him. There's probably other losses that are on him too from this year. And he's saying that, they're all asking how he feels. They're trying to get into his head. And he's saying, well, it doesn't matter how I feel. I mean, that's true, but it's also not true. I mean, how you feel, there's momentum. It plays into where your mind's at when you're there and you're getting ready for that snap. You're getting ready for that hold. But he's taking full accountability, obviously. And there's what he said what's in his hands, all he can do is go back to work. So he's saying all the right things, but that doesn't bring any comfort to anybody right now. It doesn't bring any comfort. Bobby, it was that missed extra point where things all started to go downhill for the Ravens. Because they were finally got off to a quick start, which they haven't been doing recently in that first quarter, field goal and touchdown. And then it was like after that missed extra point, everything started to go downhill. There was the bad punt catch on receiving. There was bad bobbles between Lamar and Derrick Henry. Lamar misfiring to Zay Flowers. Lamar and Isaiah Likely having miscommunications. And then it's punt. Finally a field goal, miss field goal, punt, downs, and then garbage time, you get the touchdown. So the question kind of is if Tucker's going to be missing like this, and if the momentum changes on that, what are his teammates thinking? And that's what the reporters asked Marlon Humphrey, one of the leaders on defense.
I think I said on the sideline, I think Tucker is, I said this to some of the guys, I said I think this is normal for kickers, but we've just been so blessed by Tucker's, eliteness that, we kind of take it for granted, used to sit down there on the when he goes out there and it's going in. But, I think great players, they get out of those slumps at the right moment. And I think Tucker's one of those guys, but there's not much I know about kicking, but I do know Tucker's a guy to get things turned around.
That video courtesy of Brian Wacker. And just to add on to that, Sarah, Lamar did not speak at the same podium at the same time following John Harbaugh. And so he's actually just wrapping up his press conference now. And as he's done in the past, he's just building Justin up. He's quoted for saying he's still the GOAT, referring to Justin, and hell yes, that he still has full confidence in him. You wouldn't expect anything less. But as you saw on the screen
rallying
here,
around him, which is what you want to see.
And that's exactly what John Harbaugh did in the moment that you already shared on screen that CBS caught.
Yep.
But look, there's no way around it. Even though 7 points doesn't decide, when you look at the final score, doesn't indicate that would have changed the game, the entire situational reality of the game would have changed.
Yes.
Had Justin converted. And so they're now at a point where going into the bye, special teams is a bona fide weakness, and it has been for weeks. It's not just Justin. Tonight, Jordan Stout struggled. He had at least one shank. Tylan Wallace had a hard time fielding punts, as you mentioned a minute ago. They continue to have special teams penalties. Now, penalties wasn't the story of the night. If there's one positive, they were only penalized. Remember, they're the most undisciplined team statistically. Tonight, penalized just 4 times for 20 yards. Nate Wiggins got a hand on that ball in the fourth quarter there, but he left early. So while they took a step forward from a penalty standpoint, a phase of the game that used to be their calling card is no longer. And as a head coach who prides himself on that area, I'd imagine that's got to be keeping him up at night.
Okay, yes, absolutely. I'm just seeing some more things come out from Lamar Jackson's press conference, which I'm actually very happy to hear about. So first of all, Lamar also said we shouldn't even be putting Justin Tucker in those situations because we got to finish, which is true. Hold on a second. Where is that? Okay. At the end of the game, last drive, Lamar Jackson finally, hallelujah, scrambles. But it's in a moment that it doesn't matter anymore. But he scrambles for 39 yards, and I tweeted, it won't mean much in this game, but can he bring this back more often? Bobby, as I was watching the Eagles run their run options, and sometimes Saquon take it, and sometimes Jalen take it, I'm like, where is that gone for the Ravens? Where is it? Look at this quote, Bobby. My wish may come true. Jeff Zrebeck, Lamar Jackson said his mom cussed him out after the game for not taking off more as a runner. Thank you, Mrs. Felicia Jones. Like, yes, Mom. Here's what's so interesting about this, Bobby. It's Miss Felicia, right? His entire life, who has been telling coaches, my son is a quarterback. My son is a quarterback. My son is a quarterback. He can throw, he can throw, he can throw, he can throw. That was a necessary message from Mom his entire childhood, his high school career, his college career, the beginning of his NFL career. It was necessary. But Bobby, the pendulum has swung too far in the other direction. It felt that way in the AFC Championship game. It has felt like that time and time again this season. And so if it's Mom, who we all know that he values, who has been keeping his career on track early on, I'm happy to hear that Mom is coming in and being like, listen, son, listen. If you have, what was that one? The 4th and 8 play. Now, I don't know that for sure he would have made it, but he's Lamar Jackson. The 4th and 8 play, he had green grass. Now, there were other Eagles that could have met him, but in the past, Lamar can be, who knows? He could juke guys out. He's done it all. He did it all day today. He did it on that 39-yard scramble. It's just been happening too often when there's so much green grass. And now you've done it so much, you've set up the other teams to not come at you. And so good. Take the green grass. I could not be happier for Mama coming in. And sometimes your kids just need a good chewing out, a good little cursing session. And so I hope that wakes Lamar up and helps him decide to take off more often and use those legs, because Jalen did it today. And he and Saquon played off of each other. Play off of the king and use it more often. I don't know where that's gone. I love the throwing Lamar. Love it, love it, love it. But we don't need to go. The pendulum doesn't need to swing this far. Bring it back to the middle and use all your talents to help put defenses in a bind.
Yeah, I think it speaks to somewhat of a trend that we're seeing of indecisiveness, of reluctance, of hesitance. And that's not something that we've grown accustomed to seeing from number 8 out on a football field. This was not a signature game of his. He never found a rhythm. There were multiple fumbles. There wasn't a lot of polish. Both of those fumbles, by the way, were recovered. But 6 for 15 on 3rd down. This was not an offense that was humming. Like we mentioned, at one point, there were eight drives without a touchdown. I thought he was settling on 3rd down, not often, but a couple times, just kind of settling on a check down on 3rd down. I mean, that's going nowhere fast. Dave Flowers clearly was frustrated. The NFL, the CBS cameras caught him at one point on 3rd down after Lamar missed him, or didn't even throw his way, where he seemed really frustrated. You had Rashad Bateman exit this game, as we referenced, with a knee and did not return. We'll get to the Deontay Johnson side of things in just a bit. John Harbaugh had an answer about him, the newly acquired wide receiver that's garnering a lot of traction online. So, yeah, it was sort of a perfect storm tonight, but it all begins with the same exact conversation that we've had, and you already referenced it off the top. Who is their own worst enemy? It's themselves. It's the folks that look back at them when they look in the mirror. And time again, Sarah, that has been a takeaway from this team. Should we get to some super chats?
Sure, let's do it.
Brian Mee says, Tucker's at the point where he'd missed the McAfee College Game Day 30-yarder. The weekly College Game Day contestant that's picked out from a college and ends up kicking for money. Robbie says, should the Ravens say bye to Tucker during the bye week? Ryan says, we need a new coach after this season. Belichick? H-Tet Zaw says, Tucker is starting to look like Nigel from Replacements, missing extra points and 50-yard field goals, less than 50-yard field goals. Cameron Hines says, first game with Dad, who's an Eagles fan. Sad we lost. Tuck, shaking my head. Captain Hard says, I put this on Tucker only because I think people underestimate how much missed kicks affect momentum. We've definitely alluded to that off the top of this show. Aiden says, not just Tuck, the whole special teams was atrocious, as we've mentioned. Stout's kicks didn't go far enough, and the uncaught punt that backed us up against our goal line was a massive early momentum shifter. Has to change. Really tough night for Tylan Wallace, if we already haven't mentioned that. Lil X Nation says, how we perform after the bye week will tell us a lot about this team and season. We take one step forward and 3 steps back. It has to stop. Tony Trey says, what do you mean? 7 points wouldn't change the game. 7 points would have won the game. 7 points absolutely would have changed the game. I don't know if I said that, but I'm just saying yeah, you're true. That's true. The garbage time, I wasn't accounting for the garbage time touchdown. So you're right. Thanks, Tony. Mentioned a little while ago. Yeah, 7 points would have won the game with the garbage time touchdown.
And look, in the end, it's like both things are true. Like the momentum changes. I mean, you add the 7 points, you win the game, obviously. It's not always that easy. Like if there was a field goal, would have the Eagles played differently, yada, yada, yada. So either you can say, yeah, the 7 points would have won it just by the score, or you can say it changed the momentum, it changed the whole feel, it changes what offenses do, it changes what defenses do. I mean, it's 7 points. In a game this close, it's a big deal either way.
Where to next, partner?
Well, can we keep talking a little bit about Lamar? And this might lead into Saquon Barkley a little bit. But in Baltimore, we're so used to hearing MVP chants. Lamar, this was not his best day. We already talked about the scrambling. Lamar finished 23 of 36 for 237 yards, 2 touchdowns, a 101.3 quarterback rating. Not a terrible day. He added, obviously, the 79 yards on the ground, 39 of which came late in the game. But I think because the Ravens lost, and they're now what's the record? Is it 8-5?
8-5.
8-5. It's tough to win MVP like that. It's tough to win MVP like that. We're accustomed in Baltimore to hearing MVP chants. Well, they were there again, but the chants came from the Philadelphia fans that were there in M&T Bank Stadium. And I think he was just doing everything he and Derrick Henry normally do, which is just take a little bite at you at a time. Just keep a little bite at you, a little bite at you. But then Saquon kind of took over in the fourth quarter. Again, I think that read option running game helped a lot, helped open things up. But it was that 71-yard touchdown drive by the Eagles where it was like, okay, this is the dagger.
Got it.
And when he ran it in from 25 yards out, and Bobby, he beat Roquan, he beat Ardarius Washington, he beat Tre'Davious White. Marlon Humphrey was stuck behind a blocker. On the next drive, he knocked Roquan back, as Jonas Schaefer here points out, for about 5 yards, and got the first down conversion, and that kind of ended it. And that's where you kind of see Saquon's MVP status probably rise a little bit, and Lamar's takes a hit. Not just because Lamar's not having the stats, but I think partially what hurt that the Bills fans are still complaining about Josh Allen, in addition to his multiple interceptions, but it was that he didn't have the record that the Ravens and Lamar Jackson had. And so is it completely over? No, the Ravens can come back. He can put on a show against the Giants. And then if he were able to overcome one of his nemesis in the Steelers and then finish strong against the Browns, then, he can make some noise. But I think he took a big step back. And I think those that are saying who care about MVPs, I'm calling bullcrap on you, because if Lamar won a third one, you would be celebrating it. And you would be celebrating it. And then you'd be laughing in the Bills fans' face and be like, MV3. You don't care about it because he may not win it at this point. You don't care about it because I know you want more a Super Bowl. I get that, but they're not diametrically opposed. Okay. You can win both. Many people have won both. And so I think it would have been helpful as we talk about his legacy and Hall of Fame career, but that doesn't matter in this moment. I know we're all mad about the game in this moment, but I call bullcrap when people are like, I don't care about MV3. You would have used it as fodder when people come at Lamar. You would have used it as part of his greatness. He still is great, but that he definitely took a step back while Barkley took a step forward in that race.
And now Josh is going to have his opportunity in a snow game right now. Literally, it is pouring down snow in Western New York, and we're watching 49ers Bills right past my camera right now. So we'll keep you updated on that as we go throughout the night. The matchup that everybody was watching in terms of candidates, by the way, not just MVP candidates, Offensive Player of the Year candidates, two of the top backs for rushing title. Of course, these two are the candidates, and Saquon already had the edge going in terms of rushing yards, Sarah, and he really had the edge because they already had their bye. The Eagles did.
Right.
Saquon finishes with 23 rushes for 107 rush yards, 2 catches for 10 receiving yards, and a touchdown. Derek goes 19 carries for 82 rushing yards. He had 3 catches for 29 receiving yards, did not have a touchdown for a second straight week. Remember, last week's was, of course, wiped off the board due to penalties or penalty singular. But this was the matchup. These two have been following and celebrating each other's seasons. But right now, Saquon's in the front runner seat to be the king rushing leader for the first time in his career. Derek's earned that before throughout his future Hall of Fame career, and a W for Saquon to go along with that, Sarah.
Yeah, and I think this is where things kind of like turned in the fourth quarter, where I felt like they still finished pretty evenly. They were both from yards from scrimmage, about a little bit over 110 yards each, yards from scrimmage. Saquon obviously had that 25-yard touchdown, so that certainly is nice to have on the resume. But this is when you could feel the difference in the game. Right here, Derrick Henry got absolutely pile driven into the ground on a check down on third down. As you note on X, woof. Like, it's Derrick Henry in the fourth quarter who should be running over other people.
I did that for you, by the way.
I appreciate that. Woof.
I know it's not typically in the tone, right? It's nothing positive for the Ravens. You typically like to use it in a way that's demeaning towards another team or defeating towards another team.
It's an equal opportunity wolf. I'll give it to whoever. Yeah.
That's exactly what it was on that play, because Cooper had his big time NFL moment right there. They got a couple really talented corners, young corners,
yes,
and Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, and these two dudes fly around.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so there was that in the fourth quarter where they started to impose their will defensively on the Ravens. And on the flip side, around that time, that's when Saquon Barkley got his 25-yarder. And on the next play, he knocked Roquan Smith just face to face, knocked him back by 5 yards, and they got a conversion. And so that was the difference between these two. We all were excited for this matchup. The whole NFL world was like, here we go, Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley. And like I said, they were even for most of it. And then we get into that fourth quarter, and that's when Saquon and his team started to pull away. And then that image right there of him getting pile driven is symbolic of how that game ended. I mean, that was it. You could feel the momentum change and the physicality change.
And that Philadelphia defensive front really imposed its will, particularly in the second half. Sarah, last month ahead of the trade deadline, John Harbaugh and company, led by Eric DeCosta's front office, went and got 2 players, one of which was Carolina Panthers wide receiver Deontay Johnson, the former longtime Pittsburgh Steeler. Since becoming a Raven, he's been used sparingly. And when Rashad Bateman leaves the game with a knee injury, you're thinking to yourself, okay, maybe this means some more snaps for Deontay until the CBS cameras catch him in a parka. I mean, this dude was bundled up on the sideline and clearly not a part of the game plan, even without Rashad Bateman. This has been the case in recent weeks as well. Maybe not no snaps. We'll have to take a look at the final count tomorrow, but I don't believe he logged 1 snap on offense tonight. John Harbaugh was asked point blank about that postgame and had this to say.
Shot Bateman, I don't know if the knee injury. Is Deontay Johnson available? I know he didn't look like he played.
Yeah, I'm not really ready to comment on that right now. I will be. Just don't have enough information right now to talk about that.
So, Sarah, as we covered last month, it was a total no-brainer to bring him in from a investment standpoint, being that he was essentially free.
Yep.
Right. Yet, and by the way, the numbers told you he's a man beater. He's somebody who obviously wanted a facelift and a new opportunity, a change in scenery because of what was going on in Carolina. And since then, he has not yet found his role. His number has not often been called. And really, more so than anything else, I think Lamar's 1 for 5 so far when targeting him. So there hasn't been a instant cohesion between him and QB1. But you heard from Harbaugh there. It seems like that's not the last that we've heard of whatever is happening with Deontay Johnson. And John was quoted for saying, I'm not really ready to comment on that right now. I will be, but I don't have enough information right now.
Yeah, that was interesting because when he said I don't have enough information, like usually that's the type of thing you say when like you don't know about somebody's injury. You know what I mean?
Right. Precisely.
So I don't know. But I'm guessing he'll still have his Monday morning. It's unclear with the bye week what the media schedule will be, but I think they're usually required to still do the Monday press conference. But I can't confirm that. So, I mean, he's at least promising to say what will happen. But it seemed like the absolute perfect opportunity when the Ravens traded for Deontay Johnson. We try to keep expectations reasonable, right? We were like, he's not going to see much playing time given all the other weapons from running back to wide receiver to tight end. He's just not going to have enough. But the reason why you bring him in is because A, he's free, and B, he's insurance. Because remember, right before they traded for him, there was that kind of scare with Zay Flowers. And Zay ultimately ended up being okay. And then so it's like, all right, well, now you have your insurance. It's what we've been saying since they re-signed Rashad Bateman. You need insurance. So they finally have insurance, but they didn't use them. So I'm willing to be patient and not speculate on what that could be in this moment, but count me as interested in what's going on.
Certainly, you and me both. And that gives us an opportunity to remind you all that without the support of GEHA, Government Employees Health Association, and our exclusive post-game show title sponsor, we wouldn't be able to do this all season long without their tremendous belief in what we're doing. And we certainly feel mutually. You know, we believe in them as a direct partner of the Baltimore Ravens. And they have a message for you as we get ready for some December football. Hey, Ravens flock, show off your purple pride and join your team for an exclusive pregame tunnel experience. You can enter to win the GEHA Tunnel Takeover Sweepstakes for your chance to score game tickets to the December 21st game as the Baltimore Ravens take on the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's round 2 of the rivalry. Plus, you can win game day parking, backyard bash passes, and more. Get up close as the Ravens get ready to storm the field by entering the GEHA Tunnel Takeover Sweepstakes at BaltimoreRavens.com/GEHA. That link is currently pinned in our comment section, by the way, in the live chat. That's BaltimoreRavens.com/GEHA. You can find more information as well in the show notes. And as you take a look at the site via the screen share tool, you'll see it's all this information is listed out for you, and you can register today by simply filling out this form as I scroll and show you what it all looks like. And what a sweet picture of the flock right here as well. Government Employees Health Association has offered health and dental benefits for more than 87 years, and they are designed to meet the needs of federal employees and retirees, military retirees, and their families. And with over 2 million members, GEHA continues to serve those members and families who serve all of us every single day. At GEHA, your health isn't our business, it's our purpose. GEHA is a proud partner of the Baltimore Ravens. You can learn more by visiting GEHA.com/RavensVault. Partner, where to next?
First of all, that sounds really cool. Click on that link, sign up, enter to be in the tunnel. It would be pretty sweet.
Round 2 of the rivalry? I mean, come on.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I just to give some love, okay. Mark Andrews had himself a game. I feel like twice he like climbed the ladder to go get some high passes from Lamar. By the way, how about Isaiah Likely, that one where like he's gonna have like a 50-inch vert. Isaiah Likely does. Remember that one-handed he caught out of bounds? That was insane. But
the dude's ridiculous. He went flying into the heaters.
Seriously. And he was just so effortless, but of course it didn't count. But what did count was Mark Andrews' touchdown, where he was just in traffic. I mean, it was congested. He had like 3 guys around him. To me, it looked like a high schooler playing amongst a bunch of middle schoolers, where he just was bigger than everybody, plucked the ball out of the air. There were like, 8 pairs of hands up there, and somehow it's Mark Andrews that comes out of it. So he and Lamar look to be once again on the same page. I feel like in the last couple of weeks, it's kind of been that way. Happy to see that from Mark. I mean, look at this. First of all, Lamar scrambles for 5.5. Well, no, he didn't scramble. He had just time back there. 5.59 seconds. Then he throws it. And he's just got all these Eagles draped all over him. What did he finish with, Mark Andrews? He finished 7 targets, 6 receptions, 67 yards, a touchdown, and a long of 23 yards. So
what slow start? Slow start who?
Yeah.
this guy's been on an
he did have a
tear.
slow start, but he's busting out now.
Oh, no question. Yeah. It's been a month plus, continues to be reliable on third down, continues to just outmuscle you, outwork you in different situations. So if there are positives from tonight, Mark Andrews is certainly at the top of that list. Did we mention Nelson Agholor's key drop?
No, but can we?
Does that go down as a drop? It's got to go down as a drop.
It better go down as a drop. It's got to be. It was in both of his hands.
That's a tough, back-breaking, momentum shifting, or maybe not momentum shifting, but just like it drains. It's a draining type of play.
Yeah.
And at the time, you're just trying to put something together. And Nelly had a couple times tonight where he had a chance to go after the ball and doesn't come down with it. And I think that's what makes it even more of a stinger when you see a very capable Deontay Johnson sidelined and you don't know why. Nelson was targeted twice. One you can deal with. The one that we're referencing on the left-hand sideline, a deep ball from Lamar. You just got to bring it in. You're a vet. The way the game's going, that gives you a shot in the arm right there. Who knows what happens if you find a way to bring that ball in?
And that's the stuff that like I highlighted off the top of the show. It's just, again, shooting yourself in the foot. If it's Lamar not, misfiring to Zay on third down, backed up in your end zone, then it's on third down and deep, and Agholor would have caught it within, I don't remember if it was the 10 or the 5. And I mean, that's the stuff you need. Like you have to make those plays. And it's another reason why you're like, I don't know, would Deontay have caught that? I don't know. Like where was he and I think was Rashad still on the field and healthy at that point?
At that time,
I can't remember when
I'd
he
have
went
to
out.
go back and look.
Because when he went out, it was kind of like low key. The cameras weren't like on it and like calling big attention to it.
And Adam's right in the live chat too, Sarah, that he would have had to work to get that second foot inbounds for sure. Adam 78 reminding us of that. I
saw the second foot in. No,
did you? I thought that
Adam,
that would have
been. If you
been...
have it nearby and you can see it, then let me know. But I remember, I felt like his foot was in.
It was one of those bang bang replays, but I remember thinking the opposite. So anyway, if you guys have that highlight in front of you, we'll have to go back and look, of course, and we will to start out the week. By the way, Sarah's going to be soloing it all week long. I'm leaving for, oops, I didn't mean to bring that up.
I meant to ban it, actually, if it would stop moving.
Let me get out in front of a big thank you for your upcoming work this week. I'm flying to Sweden for my annual bye-week trip coming up tomorrow. So looking forward to that. But I can't wait to watch maybe on trains, planes, automobiles, see what you have going on this week. But Sarah, here's the thing. Oftentimes in the past, over the bye week, you're thinking, man, what are we going to do for content? Not sure that question exists this year. There's going to be plenty for you, I think.
This week, it's
I
going
think there's going to be plenty of content for you coming up this week, I would imagine.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see if people are tuned in. They might want to head out to Sweden with you, kind of like bury this game away. I kind of want to be going to Sweden with you. Can I come?
Man, I'm sure a lot of people, even on the team, personnel-wise, wouldn't mind a little bit of a change of scenery. Do we need any other offensive notes that maybe slip through the cracks?
One other note, but I'd want to go look at the play. But I think the reaction is more symbolic than what actually happened on the play. But obviously, the CBS cameras caught Zay Flowers being super upset and frustrated at one point not getting the ball. Now, if I remember the play right, I don't know that Lamar had time. But you need the all 22 to really see when, pressure breaks down and when he's like under, whether he can go over there or not. So we can look at that. But I think from a bigger picture standpoint, whether Lamar had the time or not, I think Zay's frustration was kind of, again, emblematic of the moment and what was going on, just the frustration of how the offense was not moving the ball. And it did seem, it seemed to me, tell me what your gut feeling is, but it seemed to me that Lamar dropped back, and for sure he had pressure sometimes, but there were other times when he seemed to have plenty of time, like usually 2.5 to 3 seconds is enough time, and he dropped back and he wouldn't throw. And again, we don't have the all 22. Sometimes when they were able to show us replays, it was like, oh, dang, nobody was open. And then other times it was like, oh, look, at Mark Andrews was open, or Mark was open a couple times that they showed, or who knows if Zay was open. So I don't know if Lamar was missing them or if they weren't open or a combination of the two. But I think Zay Flowers' frustration was just, again, emblematic of the moment of just like the offense not being able to find its rhythm at all after those first two drives.
Yeah, no, I remember one when they were backed up in their own end zone on third down, and he just straight up missed Zay Flowers. It looked like it was deflected. Romo thought, was that ball deflected? No, he just straight up threw it at Zay's feet.
Yeah.
And so I think, look, some of this you have to give credit to Philly. That's a mean defensive front. This is the top-ranked overall defense going into the week. Now, I think we can all probably agree universally that this was more about what the Ravens didn't do rather than what Philly did do, but you can still tip your cap to a mean and lean and impactful defensive front who had its way over the Ravens offensive line. But between the overthrows, the inaccuracies, and the indecisiveness, thank you, Miss Felicia, right? If you're just tuning into the live stream, Jeff Zaribek noting from Lamar's press conference that Felicia Jones, Lamar, cussed him out post-game for not running more, as he did there in garbage time.
Yeah.
Scrambling and running, right. And taking what the defense gives him. That feels like it's the biggest trend so far in recent weeks when it comes to Lamar's reluctance, which is something that we're going to have to follow. Some numbers, time of possession, Sarah, was actually won comfortably by the Ravens. But again, this just speaks to them not being able to cash in. They possessed the football, right. They possessed the football for 33 minutes and 51 seconds. Philly, 26 minutes and 9 seconds. The first quarter was utterly dominated by the Ravens. Justin misses the PAT. You lead 9-0 after the first frame. We mentioned the, disciplined compared to past games play that they had from a penalty standpoint. Just 20 yards negated 4 times they committed penalties. They were 6 for 15 on third down. They had 372 overall yards. So, Sarah, if you look at the box score and you don't watch the game, or I guess you're looking at the statistics rather, you're thinking, oh, this had to have been won by the Ravens. They outgained them significantly. They beat them in the time of possession. Third down, they struggled. Both teams did not force one turnover. They didn't commit or force a turnover. There was a clean game. And so if you're looking at those numbers, you're thinking, I like the Ravens' odds, but not when you do what we've already outlined when it comes to the missed opportunities. So that's that.
Okay, 2 more offensive notes real quick. Obviously, John Harbaugh was asked about Bateman after the game. He said, all I can tell you is that his knee was sore and it was too sore for him to come back in. So with it being sore, if that's the word he used, that's probably good news, right? That it's
Yeah.
might not be like a tear or something like that, but we don't know. That's all we got from there. And then this actually happened before the game, but somewhat surprising. Keaton Mitchell was an inactive. Ravens went with Rasheen Ali in his place. Now, obviously, this is a special teams decision because the Ravens are pretty content with Derrick Henry and Justice Hill. They've been, pretty good 1-2 punch. And so they're just, I think since Keaton Mitchell has been brought back off of IR, he's only had 4 offensive snaps. So they decided to go with Ali as the kickoff returner. And he did have that one really good return at the end of the first half, which put the Ravens in position to score. And so, I think he got them all the way back to the 40 or 45, something like that. So I don't think they had any questions on that after the game. Keaton Mitchell specifically, they only asked about Marcus Williams, and he said, yeah, he was a healthy scratch. That's where we're at. But nobody asked him about Keaton Mitchell. I'm sure they will ask soon. But my guess is that it's a special teams decision because Keaton hasn't been playing on offense anyway.
Yeah, and that you referenced that return from the rookie 5th rounder out of Marshall, Rasheen Ali, that was 39 yards. So good opportunity for him. He cashed in. He had some ball security issues you might remember over the preseason. RB3, as you just alluded to, really just handles special teams. We know that Derrick and Justice's roles are written in ink at this point, and so I'm sure there'll be more follow-up on that the next time that John Harbaugh speaks. Let's get to some Super Chat donations as well. Minx the Cutie says, hey, Bobby and Sarah, sending love from Atlanta. What is our record coming off the bye week? Good topic to cover for the lunchtime chat this week, and we'll definitely have to go take a look because I have a hunch based on past statistics that I've seen that John is utterly dominant coming out of the bye. So we'll have to take a look at that. Thanks, Minx. Karen drops in a super chat donation. Thank you, Karen. Antonio writes, offensive line struggles against elite defensive lines. Need to fix it. Dev James 25 says Lamar's mom is the real MVP. Channeling Kevin Durant and his MVP speech from years ago. Teams know Lamar won't scramble and have adjusted. Also, Monken refuses to stick to running the ball against good defensive lines. Antonio says definitely want to see that team again. Maybe you will in February. Ravens got a lot of work to do in order to make that happen. DRMZ, a.k.a. Dreams, a.k.a. Keon, who came to my pregame show and drove all the way up from Virginia to be there, whose birthday is coming up next week and who's off all week. So enjoy your bye week, Queon, excuse me. He writes, I froze my butt off to watch them play like trash. Man, Queon's energy levels at the start, Sarah, at the pregame show were up here, and I can only imagine, he's a super positive guy, but I can only imagine where they are right now. Lil X Nation says, Monken still hasn't figured out how to utilize Lamar's legs in his offense. He only runs when he scrambles and on QB draws. He's the best dual threat for a reason. We have to use his legs more. Corey writes, the better team didn't win today, and we're fully caught up, which means it is time to talk about the defensive side of the ball. And as we transition, Sarah, I think while they buckled in the end, this was a performance when you consider the high-powered attack that Philadelphia came in with, and when you consider this was a team that had ripped off 7 straight wins and comfortably sat atop and will continue to sit atop the NFC East coming into today. This was an overall defensive performance that was good enough to win this game.
Yep.
They did not have Kyle Van Noy. I thought Tavius Robinson stepped up and set a nice edge. We'll have to take a look at the overall pressures. They did get to Jalen Hurts. They sacked him twice. Jalen finished for a modest 11 of 19, 118 yards through the air, a touchdown. He played a clean game, no picks, no turnovers. And, of course, they got it done with Saquon, as we already mentioned, thanks to his fourth quarter breakout. He finishes with 23 carries for 107 yards, a touchdown, and a long of 25. What was your overall takeaway, big picture about the defense before we get into the nitty-gritty?
It's you know what it feels like, Bobby? It's like those cartoons where there's a hole in the boat. And then the cartoon goes over and puts some sort of filling in the hole. And you're like, okay, I'm good. And then another hole comes up. And you're like, okay, let me put my finger on that hole. So you've got a finger on each one. You're like, okay, now I'm good. And then another hole comes out. And that's the way it feels right now. Like the defense, we've all been talking about, the defense is what holding the Ravens back. You can't win a Super Bowl with a defense that is just has holes everywhere. So Zach Orr, Dean Pease, John Harbaugh, all the players are Darius Washington and Kyle Hamilton and everybody is doing everything they can to get the defense. So they got a finger on that hole that's letting all the water into the boat. And they got a finger on the hole where it's like penalties nonstop on offense. And then all of a sudden new holes come up with water leaking in, with missed throws and dropped passes and Tucker missing. Well, we've had the hole in the boat a long time with Tucker since the beginning of the season. We haven't been able to figure that one out yet. And that's what it feels like. It just is like, oh my gosh, they finally, and this is against a high-powered offense. Like they finally have a formula there. They only gave up 24 points. And it's wasted. Look at that. I mean, you can live with these numbers. Jalen Hurts, 11 for 19, 118 yards and 1 touchdown, a quarterback rating of 93.8. Barkley ending up with 107. Obviously, at the end is when they gave up those big runs, including the 25-yard touchdown. Look at these wide receivers. The highest is A.J. Brown, five receptions for 66. You can live with that. No touchdowns. Goddard has the 1 touchdown, only 35 yards. And then
not a rare missed opportunity tackle by Kyle Hamilton there on the sideline.
Yeah, and he held them on the play before. People were upset about the missed false start, which they missed that, but they also missed the jersey grab and the holding. And
they
so
missed one on each side.
Ways.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
and what you're referencing, by the way, is the vaunted tush push, where clearly, as Tony Romo noted, it was clearly a false start. But it also is very difficult to see that with the amount of bodies that are in there.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe they've become so guaranteed in that tush push that it's almost like they get the benefit of doubt. But clearly, it was neutral zone infraction.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, you got to give it up to the defense. You do. I mean, if you want to be, which, we can't have these expectations based off of the way the season started. I mean, a typical Ravens defense, an old school Ravens defense would continue for all 4 quarters. Yeah. This defense kind of wore down by the end. Yeah. But they're doing what we were begging for when they were giving up like 35 points a game, and they just were like letting people have 70-yard touchdowns and just had these miscommunications and breakdowns everywhere you go. So you can live with 24 points, but then the offense didn't hold up their end of the bargain.
Sarah, if you're looking for another positive, I think Zach Orr's found a comfort zone. And how could you not when you have Kyle now playing traditional safety, as we've mentioned? How can you not when you've got our Darius Washington playing his butt off? He's 5'8", $180. He plays like he's 6'8", 280 with just a heart of a lion. And that's really calmed this defense down. It's allowed Roquan Smith to get back to form. He had a half sack tonight, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to go back and look at the box score. I think that went down as a half sack with Marlon Humphrey. Trenton Simpson looked like he got a little exposed tonight. Chris Board took a lot of his snaps. I'll be very curious to see what Trenton's final snap count was. I saw at one point, when Saquon Barkley broke loose, Tony kind of exposed Trenton for not getting out into space better. He got caught in the wash a little bit, kind of like Malik Harrison did on that run from J.K. Dobbins in the first half of Monday Night Football. But yeah, Roquan finishes with a team high 11 total tackles, 2 of which were solo, a half sack, a quarterback hit. Our Darius, 8 tackles, 6 of which were solo, 2 tackles for loss. Chris Board, Sarah, had 7, 5 of which were solo and a tackle for loss. So I thought Travis Jones, despite hobbling around for what feels like weeks now, if not months, continues to bring it interior push-wise, and he's a lot more mobile than you give him credit for, chasing after. I thought, who was he chasing after at one point in the second level? If it was either one of the running backs or Jalen himself. But I continue to be impressed by what Travis Jones gives to this team. And here he is. Do you have this specific play and who he was chasing?
Yeah, they did another option, and it was Saquon Barkley. And look at the left. It starts out double teamed. That's how it started. And on the right is how it ended with him taking down Saquon Barkley. Like he read it and he got through the double team and took down Saquon. And this is the guy, as we've mentioned, that's been battling that ankle injury. So it's listen, I've said this before. Matabike is better when he's out there. These two together, they can be together for a few more years. He's just a monster to deal with. Just a monster to deal with. And then you get Saquon in the backfield, and he didn't find a way to outrun him. It was beautiful.
I don't think we should discount. I know it's doom and gloom right now, and you guys are probably out there thinking, man, Sarah and Bobby are both wearing black. What is this, the team's funeral? No, it's not the team's funeral. I mean,
no, blackout.
Yeah, exactly. Even though it's not prime time. No. Kind of felt like it, though. I mean, this had a big game feel to it, even though the lower bowl by the end of halfway through the fourth quarter, I saw some photos, was just not completely emptied out, but significantly underpopulated because of the way that things were shaping up and whatnot. But look, there's some positives defensively, which overall, as you kind of alluded to a few minutes ago, they cannot put three phases together. They just cannot do it, even in wins.
No complete game, none.
Right? So with that in mind, we're not going to ignore that. But defensively, this was a performance collectively, despite buckling in the end, that was admirable against that high-powered offense. Now, they did not have Devontae Smith. He's one. Mm-hmm. He's like the number 2 option for them at wide receiver, which really put them in a position where, okay, you got to stop A.J. Brown and Dallas Goedert. And statistically, they did. They did. They stopped him. Dallas got his with his touchdown, and A.J. burnt Nate Wiggins a couple times. I thought Brandon Stevens may have bit on one. But this was a game that defensively, I think you can maybe not write home, but at least write somewhere.
Yeah, there was a couple other shout-outs on defense. Roquan and Marlon Humphrey combined for a sack on Hurts on a third down. That was key. Chris Board, he came in for Trenton Simpson one time on third down, and he helped big time on a third down stop, and his teammates let him know how proud they were of him. Like, he was just right in the exact correct gap and took down Saquon, did his thing there. Brandon Stevens, he had a nice pass breakup on third down at the end of the third quarter, which forced a fumble or forced a punt. And Ardarius Washington also played well in the box. Like, there were just so many good plays from defensive players all over the place. Again, broke down in the fourth, but I think what they put together should be enough for this offense to do the rest.
Sarah, at one point in game, after Justin had missed maybe his first or second, I tweeted something along the lines of referring to the Pittsburgh game that Justin's already cost the Ravens a game this year. And then, of course, the comment section's like, a game? Yeah. And I was like, yeah, look, you could have that argument, of course, and we certainly will after this statistic right here, put together by Doug Clawson. Ravens now have 5 losses.
Mm-hmm.
Those 5 losses have come by a combined 22 points. 5 losses, a combined 22 points. Justin has 22 points worth of missed kicks in those 5 losses. So when I said a game, I was probably being pretty generous. Justin has single-handedly lost this team games this year. And it's the complete opposite of what he's done every single year, seemingly every year he's been a part of the Ravens. He's typically good for winning you multiple games per year. It's the opposite this year, and it's clearly one of the most, if not the most, pressing issue going into the bye week.
Okay, here's a question for you and chat. What's your confidence level that he could get it together this season, not next season? Everybody's already calling for him to be cut, right? Don't bring him back after the season. I could totally see, I don't know, some elite team being like, all right, we'll take Justin Tucker. And then in future seasons, he's like nailing all these kicks, you know what I mean, in the future. But for this season, I guess I'll do this. What's your confidence level they could find somebody that would be better And then what's your confidence level that I see a lot of zeros. I see a lot of zeros in the chat. Okay, here's some 20, some 25. Let's say a scale on 1 to 10 or 1 to 100. Okay. What's your confidence level that he can bounce back and become a guy that I don't even want to say automatic, but is a guy that it's like I feel confident again. He's bounced back. Let's go into the playoffs. Tuck and bounce back. Where are you at?
Well, with the other figure that's out there somewhere, I have no confidence that they can find somebody that is better than Justin Tucker.
Be an upgrade.
Yeah, I don't have any.
You're
I don't
a
have
zero.
any
You're a 0 out of 10 that they could find an upgrade. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And then in terms of turning it around, I mean, this is the worst funk of his entire career.
Oh, easily.
It's nowhere close. 2015, he's already surpassed his missed kicks in 2015, and he's got 5 more weeks. They've played 13 games. He's got 4 more games, and he's already hit his career high in misses. So what's the scale that I'm operating on? 1 to 10?
1 to 10.
Oh, it's got to be below 50%. I think it has to be below 50%. I will always hold out hope for Justin, but at some point you have to trust your eyes. I think that's what I was trying to tweet in game as it relates to John Harbaugh's decision making moving forward, both when to go for it on 4th down from a Todd Monken perspective, how you handle 3rd down to set up potentially 4th down. And if you're Lamar, you can't be taking sacks, obviously, on 3rd down the way he did, that I think negated 14 yards at one point that put Justin in position to miss the 47, I want to say. Don't quote me on that. But so, yeah, I'd be below 50% on that second question.
So if you're below 50%, that kind of means that you're above 50%. That in the playoffs, he's going to lose a playoff game for the Ravens.
Ooh.
That's a high likelihood for you on a scale from 1 to 10. Like an 8, 9?
Probably.
Oof.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah. How do you, as you evaluate your own answers,
yeah.
How do you gauge your confidence levels knowing that this is uncharted waters for the undisputed GOAT going into for over a decade now?
I know.
How do you gauge that?
It's crazy. Okay, that Justin Tucker bounces back on a scale from 1 to 10. I'll give him a 6.5. I'll give him a 6.5. But I'd also give him a 6.5 that once we hit the playoffs, he could doink one and the Ravens lose a playoff game.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. I got a text message from one of my basketball co-coaches who's a massive Steelers fan. And when I tell you, when I go to practice, he rubs stuff in. I cannot tell you. But anyway, I got a text in the middle of the game, I think after Tuck's first missed field goal, but also missed an extra point. He's like, "Oh, I feel bad for Tucker." Like even Steelers fans were like feel bad for him. And I was like, listen, I think Ravens fans are beyond the I feel bad for Tucker. That was going on, week 1 or 2 and 3. But now it's like patience is lost. You know what I mean? It's definitely lost. So it's just crazy to me, Bobby, that it's like all these like wide left misses. He did have one to the right today, but the vast majority, all of it before the one to the right was left. And I just keep thinking to myself, he'll just straighten it out. Yeah. He'll just straighten it out. Like just straighten it out. Straighten it out, Tucker. Straighten it out. While we're talking about frustrations, can we talk about the frustrations of the spamming situation going on in here?
I think we're a hot commodity tonight.
I think between the two of us, we've banned the whatever that thing is called where they're always trying to get people to stream. We've probably banned it 20 times, maybe.
Yep.
YouTube needs to get this under control. YouTube needs to get this under control. If you're banned, I don't know what these bots are, but they got to figure the situation out. There it is again. It's crazy. And we're on it pretty quickly. We get rid of it pretty quickly. But,
Torrey
like,
Smith,
you two's got to get it together. Go ahead, Torrey Smith.
he weighed in on the Justin saga, and he says, Tuck missing is throwing me off. I'm not a specialist coach, but he still has the leg strength. Something is off, so small that it's hurting his accuracy. It's mind-blowing. I still believe in him, though. That's my dog. So
Yeah.
it's at a point where this is the luxury that he's provided. This is the staple that he's been. The widespread reaction is such that it's reflective of how dominant and elite he's been for over a decade. And his teammates and his coaches will continue to build him up as you'd expect anybody to. But we have to believe our eyes. And I think all of our eyes are telling us that it is really, really rough sledding right now. And you are flirting with fire if you're trotting Justin Tucker out there with the game on the line.
Yeah.
So that's the reality of
that's where we are right now.
Yes. Super chats. Captain Hard writes 0. He needs to see a sports psychologist.
Well, they have one in house. I promise you.
They do.
Yeah.
They do. Let's get to some patron shout outs as well while we're at it. Chris B. and Michelle Spate. Thank you both for believing in what we're building. You are part of the Vault Patreon community, and we appreciate all the support that you give us. If you guys are interested in supporting the show and supporting us and our efforts to give you daily Ravens content year round, we would love for you to join the Vault Patreon community by visiting patreon.com/Ravens Vault podcast. You can do so for as little as $1.99 per month this football season. Sarah, to make matters worse, Pittsburgh just keeps winning.
Oh, yeah.
And the Steelers beat up on Cincy, essentially all but eliminating them from postseason hopes this year. Pittsburgh is now comfortably, let's make sure I get this record right, 9-3 entering week 14. And Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season in 18 years with the Steelers. Of course, he's the longest tenured head coach in the league, something that's a statistic that people like to follow every single year. And his Steelers, Sarah, with Russell Wilson leading the way today, 29 of 38 for over 400 yards through the air, 3 touchdowns, a pick, a quarterback rating of 126.4, 75 yards on the ground chipped in by Najee Harris, and a big game for George Pickens, 3 for 74 and a touchdown. They lead the way, 1.5 games up on the Ravens going into their bye week. And when I say bye week, I mean the Ravens bye week.
Right. Some more just quotes coming out from the locker room. Marlon Humphrey, a few reporters have this. Marlon Humphrey on the defense. He said, quote, "The message became a little bit clearer. If you want to play ball, then we'll get you out there. If you don't, then you're going to have to sit on the sideline. We're holding guys more accountable now."
Boy.
That is on a day where Marcus Williams was a healthy scratch. That's the way you got to do it. And, you know, that's the way you got to do it.
It's been a very active season. Yeah, you got the third highest cap hit player who is a non-factor for you to the point of multiple healthy scratches and a very publicized benching. You have a veteran safety who, yes, signs a veteran minimum deal that's not supposed to come in and save your season, be waived, and not even make it 10 games into your season. And Eddie Jackson, he's not brought to Pittsburgh a couple weeks ago. He's no longer a part of the team. You have the alignment changes that forced Kyle Hamilton to go back to traditional safety. You had early on concerns about Zach Orr and his ability to lead this defense, which has since been quieted. You now have the top-ranked offense, Sarah, that doesn't look like it and has been somewhat quiet and modest and pedestrian-like today. So you have a special teams group that probably leads the way. Wow, these bots are annoying.
I told you.
This is annoying. You have a special teams group that's probably the biggest issue of them all, and you're the most undisciplined team statistically from a penalty committing standpoint. So they have a lot to address. They have a bye week to do so. And Sarah, they better do so because we all remember what's coming up. The very rare, unique 3 games in 10-day stretch that begins December 15th on the road at the New York Giants, followed by round 2 with Pittsburgh, which is a Saturday, followed by a standalone game in Houston on Christmas afternoon against an underperforming Texans team led by a sophomore slumping C.J. Stroud. That's what they have to look forward to, followed by what? The regular season finale, which I believe is Cleveland on a to-be-determined date and time. So that's what the Ravens have ahead of them.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know how like I could keep calm throughout the Lamar Jackson contract situation that lingered for years. And part of it is because of what I had seen with like Ray Lewis, Terrell Suggs, Haloti Ngata, like so many stars, Ed Reed. Like I just saw things over and over and over again. And I knew you didn't need to get too low or too high or take things too personal. And it's tough to say this because obviously the Ravens need to address issues. They have to do that. But I just remember how low things got in 2012 when they eventually went on to win the Super Bowl. Let me tell you how their December started out. December 2nd, lost to the Steelers. December 9th, lost to the Commanders. And then this one was bad. December 16th, lost to the Broncos. And I don't know if you guys remember, that was the game where Joe Flacco, there was like a picture that went everywhere where he was down flat against the grass and his face ground in it, or his face mask into the grass. And it was like symbolic of kind of what was going on. Like it was a 3-game losing streak to start December. Obviously it helped that later on they got some defensive players back who were injured, but there were those 3 straight losses. Then they won one and then had another loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. And so, excuse me, I went into the preseason a little too far, but it was going back and forth, win, loss, after their 3-game losing streak to start December. And then as a wild card, they went on and did craziness, just absolutely went off and was able to win the Super Bowl. And so obviously things eventually had to go right, and things will eventually have to go right with the Ravens, but this is a week-to-week league. It feels terrible right now. There are certain things you kind of want to kiss goodbye. I said the MVP is kind of a step back at this point. It's hard to win it when you've lost 5 games. So that might be out of the picture, but apparently nobody cares, Bobby. Apparently nobody ever wanted MV3. Nobody ever wanted that. There was no MV3 cry that was going out through. There was no MVP chants at Baltimore. So apparently nobody cares about that. But that might be out of the picture. But winning the AFC North, while it would be an uphill climb, is not out of the picture. But remember, after the Steelers beat the Ravens, everything seemed doom and gloom. Then the Steelers went out, lost to the Browns. And then the Ravens win on Monday night against the Chargers. And now it's reversed again. And this is just the highs and lows, the typical highs and lows of an NFL season. And so things have to get right. Justin Tucker has to get right. Throws have to be made. Catches need to be caught. Penalties need to be gotten rid of. Defense needs to continue what it's doing. So things have to happen. But for me, it's just never doom and gloom because this league is too unpredictable and emotions can swing. So I'm excited for the rest of December as soon as they get back from the bye, and I'll be interested in see what kind of changes they make going forward. But in no way is all hope lost. That's for sure.
Well said. Next time you and I will be back is Tuesday together. You're going to be here all week for the bye. I'm going to be, as I've already mentioned, in Sweden and Norway celebrating the bye week as I try to do every single year. Tomorrow night. Oh, I'm sorry. You and I are. Here I go. Wheels always come off towards the end of the show. No, you and I are going to be together tomorrow for our day after Ravens lunch hour live stream at 12 noon.
Okay.
And then after that, I'll be back on Tuesday, the 10th. So you'll handle business this week for me, Tuesday through Friday, and the Monday leading into Giants week.
Okay.
And as always.
So 5 shows.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Solo Sarah for 5 shows. I got that.
Yep. RNTY1 wants to know if I've packed yet. I have an idea of what I'm bringing.
Well, you just got back from your mom's house today.
Yeah, I was going to say, to give you guys an idea.
You could be packed.
Right,
Or how
right.
you should be packed, I mean.
Exactly. I unpacked from my 6 a.m. adventure this morning, back from upstate New York, just to soak up as much time with the family as I could. And then, now I gotta pack back up, and I have these unreal thermal pants that I got off of Amazon that I'm very excited to wear. So look forward to that. Look forward to watching you when I can. And you're the best. I appreciate you.
Well, you're the best. You had my back last week. Thank you for letting me have Friday off.
Yep.
So yeah, chat's saying that they're already gonna troll me for next week. Why you gotta do that when I'm solo? Well, what's up with that?
Oh, they'll help you out.
I might have to
Push
mute a
comes
few
to shove.
people if you're out to troll.
When push comes to shove, they'll take care of you.
Mute.
Remember, guys, when you're solo hosting, you're out on an island. So help my partner out, please, as much as possible.
Honestly, when I'm solo, I just don't even consult the chat as much. Like I look in, I'll be like, hey, let's look at the chat. But it's impossible to read the chat and talk at the same time. Like usually we both check in when the other one's talking. So
exactly.
You can troll me, but I'm probably not going to see it.
Well, I look forward to watching when I can. And as always, if you guys haven't already done so and you enjoyed tonight's content, like the video if you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. If you watch on X, consider joining us on YouTube for our daily live content that we produce here inside the vault. Subscribe to the channel. We're coming up on 20,000 subscriptions, by the way. Let's get an update on that count because I'm super curious. And we'd like to tell you once more about this tunnel takeover that GEHA is doing. We are 220 subscribers away from 20,000. So if you haven't already, please help us get to that milestone. And as a reminder, Government Employees Health Association is putting on the Tunnel Takeover Sweepstakes, and you have a chance to score game tickets to the December 21st game. It's round 2 of Ravens Steelers. You'll get game day parking, backyard bash passes, and more. You can get up close as the Ravens get ready to storm the field by entering the GEHA Tunnel Takeover Sweepstakes. It's BaltimoreRavens.com/GEHA. It's super easy to register, and you can do so by clicking on the link that we have included in the show notes and as a pinned comment right now in the live chat. So thanks to GEHA for their continued support. Partner, you and I will be back 12 noon tomorrow for, I'm sure, plenty of reaction. We'll see when John Harbaugh is set to speak, and I hope you have a great night.
I hope you have a great night.
Thank you.
I hope the chat has a great night.
Same.
I hope everybody has a good night. Put the game behind you and have a good life.
And let's see what's going on in Buffalo. It is a very entertaining game in Buffalo right now, so we'll have to see how this one shakes out. It is currently at the
Bills
half.
Are killing them. 21-3.
What am I saying? This is not interesting. Buffalo is up on San Francisco 21-3, and the 49ers continue to struggle this year. They are flirting with disaster. Brock Purdy is playing, by the way. He didn't last week, so he's out there. Very modest first half numbers for him. And Buffalo put up 141 yards on the ground. They're going to have to do a lot of that. Both teams are trying to do that because it's a snow game. So anyway, okay, guys, we'll catch up with you tomorrow. Thank you to GEHA again. Thanks to all 4,500 of you at one point peak and currently watching us. Do all the things that help us out. If you don't mind on the way out, subscribe, hit that like button, hit that notification bell, leave a comment with your overall thoughts of how this one shook out, and we will catch up with you tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern. For Sarah Ellison, I'm Bobby Trossett, signing off from this post-game live stream. The Ravens fall in disappointing fashion, of course, 8-5, now 1.5 games out of first place, with the bye week looming and lots to address and reflect on over the next week plus before going to the New York Giants on December 15th to begin a, of course, 3-game, 10-day stretch. For Sarah Ellison, I'm Bobby Trossett, signing off, and we'll catch up with you tomorrow. And as always, thanks for joining us here inside the vault. We'll talk soon.